Technowood School is a school for autistic children and young adults, and we have set this podcast up to provide our pupils with a fantastic opportunity to develop a range of skills whilst interviewing top sportsmen and women from a variety of different sports. Joining us today on the TWS Sports Podcast is a former footballer and manager. He played for Bury and Reading and has managed teams such as Bradford, Bolton and now Wrexham. Welcome to the podcast, Phil Parkinson.
Good afternoon.
Nice to meet you. Firstly, I just wanted to say a massive thank you for giving us the opportunity to visit the racecourse stadium and speak to you in person. It means so much to us. Thank you.
No problem, it's a pleasure.
If you have any questions for us throughout the podcast about our experiences of sport or anything about autism, then please ask. We like to answer your questions too.
Okay.
We like to start our podcast with some random questions before we start talking about your career. Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay. Who is the most famous person in your phone book?
Oh, probably Sir Alex Ferguson. not that I call him, but obviously when he was a manager, I had to call him about a couple of players many years ago. So I've still got his number in my book. Yeah.
If you could trade with lives with anyone for a day, who would it be and why?
Oh, blimey, these are good questions. Yeah, I think the Prime Minister.
You do a better job than you
Just
do.
step in his shoes for the day and see what.
But which Prime Minister?
So everyone says, oh.
They've all made a mess of our country.
Yeah.
Nor is that.
You know,
It's all right, we can get
just see, because everyone says a football manager's job can be pressurised, but obviously when you're running the country, all the decisions you've got to make which impacts on so many people, it'd be very interesting.
Okay. If you could have any superpower, what would it be and why?
Oh, I think to fly, to get to places quickly, to get across over the busy roads and just supersonic kind of propelled and get from A to B quickly.
Yeah, it has to be a good way to run away from people you don't want to talk to.
That's good, you're right.
Like your like family members who are angry with you.
Yes.
They're especially terrifying.
Yes.
Thank you for answering those questions. Let's chat about your career.
Okay.
We want to take you back to the beginning and talk about your childhood. What are your memories of growing up, and did you always want to be a footballer?
Yeah, ever since I can remember I wanted to be a footballer, and my dad had a real passion for football, and ever since I can remember I played, and I think football's in the culture of the country, isn't it? And dad's taking the sons to a game of football and soaking up the atmosphere. Great early childhood memories for me personally.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a determination to be a footballer from a very early age.
But there were some instances when you were a kid where a window decided it was a goalpost.
Possibly, yes, possibly. I think when I was growing up, that it was that era of going on the field and playing football all the time in the summer holidays, and
a window paid the price.
just playing in your garden, cricket, football, and sport. And I think it's a healthy way to grow up, to be out playing sports, and I had a lot of great, fantastic memories of playing in local football teams, and still got some good friends to this day.
You started your career at Southampton. They are well known for having a really good youth setup. What are your memories of that?
Yeah, well, I was from Stockton-on-Tees, which is in the northeast, and Laurie McElhenney was the manager of Southampton. He was a very famous manager, and he was originally from the northeast, so he set up an academy in Gateshead, which was so we used to have Monday night training sessions up there. And Southampton, as you rightly say, had a great reputation for developing young players. So I'd had the opportunity to go to quite a few clubs, but went to Southampton, and obviously a very famous player Southampton got from that northeast academy was Alan Shearer. And so it was very worthwhile for Laurie McElhenney to set that up, because he knew the northeast was a hotbed of football. Great experience leaving home at 16. I think that toughens you up quickly, and being so far away from home as well, you have to get through those periods when you're inevitably homesick, and just develop that mental resilience you need in life, but also in football.
We would like to dig a little deeper about your Southampton days. We spoke to Saints legend Matt Letizia on the podcast last year, and we recently got in contact with him. You came through the youth system at a similar time, and Matt told us to ask you about your coach, Dave Merrington's, and his interesting coaching sessions and punishments for your wrongdoing.
Oh, that's a great question.
Oh dear, this is going to be fun.
First of all, Matt Letizia, I could talk a long time about Matty because he was a year younger than me, but people say he was the best player you've played with, and obviously I came up with Matty in the youth team, and Matty was a genius of a footballer, an absolute genius. And if any young people are listening to this, if you get a chance to go on YouTube and watch Matt's 100 Greatest Goals, watch that, because that is an extraordinary video of some outstanding goals. Dave Merrington was an inspiration to a lot of young players. I'm still in touch with him now to this day. He was tough, but he explained why he was tough, and standards had to be high because he wanted to prepare us for life. First of all, if you stay football, there's lots of ups and downs, and as a young man you've got to be prepared to deal with those. But he used to say to us, if you don't become a footballer, I want to teach you standards that if you go into another walk of life, you'll be on time, you'll be smart, you'll be polite to people, you'll be humble. And there was one day that we, as apprentices, you had to collect all the equipment after training, and we left a ball at the training ground, and we had to do 50 laps of the Dell pitch.
Just for the fun of getting a single round small ball.
Exactly. And there was another game, we got beat at home to West Ham on the Dell, and we were supposed to be off the next day, and it was so rare to us get days off because we were always training and working. And we're in the dressing room, and he said, "What time do you think you're in tomorrow, lads?" And we thought we had the day off, and Craig Maskell said, 9 o'clock, Dave. We went 6 o'clock in the morning, and we all had to be in at 6 o'clock in the morning. And but he was tough, but he was fair, and he's a great guy. And
all you did was lose a match.
I know,
so you
there you
lost your
go.
day off.
Yeah, but he was tough. But it's probably an old school kind of way. But that every player though who came through that system with Dave respected him and looks back on those times with fond memories.
I suppose you could have been given worse punishments, like cleaning the team's boots instead of practicing.
Exactly.
Could have been worse.
Yes, right, yeah.
Anyways. You had a great career at Reading, sorry, and are a club legend. How would you reflect your time at the club, and what is your standout memory?
Reading, amazing part of my life. My 3 kids were all born in Reading. Played there for 11 years. I always feel that it was a great club to be at because I was part of the transition from Elm Park to the new Medeski Stadium. So Reading kind of overnight, this new stadium was being built, and the old one obviously had a great feeling to it, but obviously the club needed to progress. So moving to that stadium transformed Reading into a different sphere altogether. Best memories, the promotions, one under Mark McGee at Elm Park, and the second one under Alan Pardew. And promotions are always hard earned, and both those promotions with a great group of lads in both teams, I'll remember for a long time.
When you return, you move straight into management.
Jacob, that says retired.
Oh.
It's okay.
When you retired, you moved straight into management. How did you find the move from a player to a manager?
Well, very, very good question. Honestly, management is a whirlwind, and I remember my first couple of weeks as a manager, I was thinking it can't possibly be like this all the time, and it is. And every manager you speak to, if you spoke to the managers, will tell you that managing is an all-encompassing job. Things are always on your mind. You might be out walking your dog, but you'll be thinking about what team you're going to pick or what training session you're going to do the next day. As a player, it's great because you look after yourself and you concentrate on what you've got to do. But managing is very rewarding, obviously, when you win and do well, but equally can be very challenging. And as I've got older, it's getting that balance right between having time with your family and working. And one great kind of lesson I've learned over the years that if you're in the club 7 in the morning till 7 at night every day, sometimes you can't see the wood for the trees, and you need sometimes to take a step back, go and have a walk somewhere away from everyone, turn your phone off. And sometimes in those periods, decisions come to you, things evolve, and you get a bit of clarity. And as I've progressed as a manager, I've learnt that, and experience is a fantastic thing.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure being able to take a walk is useful when you get a very stubborn player that refuses to cooperate. I'm sure you've had a few.
Yeah, I think players. I think most important part of my job is man management and speaking to people and getting to know the lads, because they all want to do well. And sometimes if a player is having a poor period in terms of his performance, there'll be underlying reasons for that. And it's up to myself and the staff to find those reasons and to help them through situations. And it's quite easy. It's easy as a manager to say write players off and say, all right, he's not done well, we're not going to pick him anymore. But the challenging thing is to say, okay, he's not playing well at the moment. How are we going to get him back to what he was? Because every player who's at Wrexham at the moment has got talent, and it's up to us to get the best out of them.
What did you find most difficult in your early career as a manager?
Losing. I think that when you lose as a manager, it hits you like a ton of bricks because you take all the responsibility. So I think that the biggest one, because when you win you feel invincible, but when you lose you feel, oh, should have done this, why did and you start questioning things, which is only natural. But as I spoke about earlier, I think the time management is such a key thing, and the biggest mistake I think a manager can do is try and do everything. Have a coaching staff but want to do all the coaching sessions, because one thing that does, it demotivates the people who are working with you. You've got to employ really good people and trust them to do their job they're employed for, and give them ownership in their roles. And I think if the manager's voice is on the training ground all the time, the players, because you're doing the team talks and half-time talks, the players, when the manager speaks to the end of the week, you want it to have an impact. So it's great to have other staff who are great on the training pitch.
We are going to skip a lot of your career, I'm afraid, as we want to talk about Wrexham. But before we do that, we have to ask you about your time at Bradford. You did an amazing job there, reaching the League Cup final and also beating Chelsea. What are your memories of those cup runs?
Yeah, just incredible, really. When I took over Bradford, they were right at the bottom of Division 2, and my first job was to keep them in the division that year, and managed to do that. And the second year, as you rightly said, we got to a major cup final, which for a team in the 4th tier of English football is history making. And then that year we also got promotion. So the memory of that, the way the city kind of lifted with that success was incredible. And then moving on to the Chelsea game, that still kind of, when I talk about that, it still makes me almost a bit emotional, because 2-0 down away at Chelsea and to beat them 4-2, under Mourinho's team, who were so good at home, very rarely conceded goals, never mind got beat. Was great, and the atmosphere of 6,000 Bradford fans behind the goal was just brilliant. And everywhere I go, I bump into Bradford fans, and those games you mentioned are the ones they want to talk about.
Is it true when Wrexham asked you to be the manager, you said no at first? Why weren't you convinced about joining Wrexham at first?
I think initially I was away on holiday. It was just after COVID period. I was away on holiday.
The dreaded C word.
Yeah,
no one likes that word.
And I just had an initial chat, and obviously my previous club was Sunderland, and I was a bit concerned about dropping into the National League, because one, I had managed that level before, and two, like everybody, you're ambitious. But then I spoke to the owners and got a deeper understanding of what their aims for the club and the journey they wanted to take Wrexham on. And once I'd had that chat, I very quickly started thinking, well, this could be an incredible opportunity to be part of a club which can grow. And similar to what I said about Bradford, that the owners wanted to impact the area, and a successful football club can do that. And so far we've done a decent job of that. There's still a long way to go in terms of development of this club, but yeah, that was really the reasons.
Jacob, you're next.
When were you convinced, and who convinced you to join Wrexham?
Yeah, it was really when I had a chat with the owners. The initial chat was with Rob McElhenney, and he just explained about the vision and also why they'd bought Wrexham as well, because that's an interesting story in itself, how they'd identified Wrexham as a club with an incredible story in terms of being out of the league for so many years, and kind of the stigma that as a football club with a history of Wrexham to be out the league structure. And obviously they looked at the catchment area, and so listening to that story, starting to look at things myself, and so pleased I came on board.
You got off to a difficult start at Wrexham, and the team struggled to gel, football terms. How did you find those first few games of your first season at the club?
Yeah, I mean, there's a big change around. Obviously, when I came in, there was a lot of work to be done, and up to Christmas, I never felt we had a squad which was good enough, really, and I kind of felt that if we could stay in touching distance up to January, we would have done well. And sometimes the kind of exposure the club had about the ownership and the documentary and everything, doesn't win you games of football. What wins you games of football is the quality of the team, and we were short in areas, and to play for Wrexham with the kind of challenges and the kind of expectation, you need a certain level of player to deal with that, and it took us a couple of transfer windows to get the squad in place, which I felt would take us forward.
Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney are the owners of Wrexham. How involved are they in the club, and how often do you speak to them?
They're very involved, very engaged in everything, and I exchange messages with them. I do speak to them, but obviously I speak with Sean Harvey more, because obviously myself and the staff are identifying players we want to bring in. Sean then puts deals together, what it's going to cost, and then we liaise with Rob, with Ryan and Humphrey as well. But yeah, in terms of their involvement, their passion, when they come over, you can see. I remember the first game they came over to. It kind of, because everyone, it was almost a surreal feeling, with the camera crew around us, Rob and Ryan, the ownership, famous stars, if you like, but obviously we hadn't met them, and when they came over, it really kind of hit home, what this journey was going to be like. And also it was great for the staff and the players to connect with the owners, because that's equally important, and see their passion for the football club. And I felt the first time they came over was very important.
When was the last time you spoke to Ryan or Rob?
I'd say a week or two ago. So sometimes we'd speak more than at times in the summer. Obviously, there's not as much going on in terms of the game-to-game situation. But they're involved, and they're very engaged in what players we're looking at to bring in this summer.
Do they know what's going on right now?
Probably not, but I'm sure they'll watch it, and hope they will. And wish you guys all the best, because I think it's great what you're doing, getting experience of doing this, and let's see what it can lead to.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
You never know.
There is a lot of media linked with the club, which is great, but I imagine at times can take the focus away from the football pitch. Have you had to remind the players to focus on the football, and how distracting can everything else be at times?
Yeah, I think that's a very, very well thought out question, because it's extraordinary in terms of the press attention Wrexham have had for a National League club. And obviously since the documentary came out, it's not just in this country, it's in particular America. And I think that's one of the challenges of getting that balance right between making sure commercially the players do their bit to help the club moving forward, but equally once we're in to train, we're in to work. Once the whistle goes on Saturday afternoon, we're representing a working class town of supporters who want to see the lads roll the sleeves up and play with a real passion and showing the performance they understand and care about the club. And I do feel that we've got that balance pretty well so far. We've got to continue to do that, but I feel we've got a good senior group of players who drive the standards for us and kind of don't let the others get carried away with kind of all the hype, whilst also enjoying that side of the club as well.
What was your biggest challenge in your first season as manager?
That first pre-season was difficult because it was COVID kind of problems in terms of people missing training and things, and we never really got a good feel for the squad, and and also for myself, that getting to know the division, and you look at football is football, it is, but it's understanding the level you're operating at, and that was new to me, and it took me a little bit of a while to adapt to what was needed, but quickly after the first few games thought, I know what we do need to really push us on.
We have brought a selection of photos with us from your time in football. We will give you one photo at a time, and can you please tell us where the photo is from and what memories the photo gives you, please?
Oh, well, obviously the promotion, the picture with the trophy with Rob and Ryan, and that's one which will stay with me for a long time, and all my family, because
Is that a sunburn?
they do look very red actually, but just an incredible day. The 15 years of pain at the football club came to an end that day against Bournemouth.
This one?
Well, that was my testimonial when I was at Reading. It comes to the end of my career, and we put together an England 11, and Paul Gascoigne came down to play in it, and amazing personality, character as well as player, drove all the way down from Glasgow to play in the testimonial, and was just what an incredible guy.
Sounds like something from a courthouse testimonial.
Oh, that's me and Billy Sharp having an altercation.
An altercation?
It's not as
who died?
It's not as bad as it looks actually, because there was Billy was having an argument with someone behind me, and I was actually grabbing him to stop him getting involved, and that's, even though it looks like I'm grabbing him by the throat, I was actually kind of stopped something escalated into something worse.
There's quite a
So
few
that
photos.
hand there, is that the other guy?
I'm not sure actually. I'm not sure.
There's a few photos of you and Billy Sharp at each other's. Sheffield United last year.
Yes, we had a few words again, but
A few?
But
This guy don't get along well.
Obviously very incredible day for the football club, and myself shaking hands with the king, and what a day that was. Just very special.
This one that looks like the printer ate the colours.
That's a team photo when I played for Bury, the club I played for after Stampton and prior to Reading, and some good players in that picture, and Sammy McElhenney.
A lot of them have moustaches.
Sammy McElhenney, one of a very famous Manchester United player, is in that, probably the most famous person in that picture. Kenny Clements played for Man City, Yeah, some good players. Yeah, that's the picture of the Capital One Cup final. Obviously, we great achievement to get there on the day. We got well beaten by an amazing Swansea team, but the standout, as you can see in the background, the Bradford fans, is just the kind of day out and the way our supporters just embrace the day.
Last one.
And this one.
Yeah, that's obviously the open top bus and the end of the season. Always special moments because you kind of work hard during the season, and my daughter's with me there, and you kind of put your head on the pillow at night as the season's drawing to close and thinking, you dream of those nights, and it was incredible to be part of it.
Now to hopefully not put any sour stuff on this moment, but I apologise if this turns the sweet into sour, but in your first season at Wrexham you lost in the playoffs. What did you change in the pre-season to help the club push on more in the following season?
Yeah, well, obviously the playoffs is always hard in the manner of the defeat. But very quickly we looked at rebuilding the squad, and we identified the areas we felt needed strengthening, and brought some excellent players in, but also got a stronger kind of strength in depth, and that was the key, that we were able to cope with injuries as the season went on, and where the previous season injuries towards the end of the season had proved very costly.
Can you talk us through how buying and selling players work? Do you have overall say on what happens, and how involved are Ryan and Rob in it?
Yeah, so the process, I think every club has a kind of way of operating, but myself and the rest of the staff look at the players and scout them and watch them, speak to agents, speak to the managers, build a kind of profile up of the players we want. And the next port of call really is Sean Harvey, who kind of negotiates with the agents the player's contract, and if there's a fee to play, he'll go direct to the club. So then he kind of puts together what it's going to cost, and then at that point, Rob and Ryan by this point are kind of in the loop and where the conversations are going, but it comes to a point, right, this is what the overall package is going to look like. Is everybody still feel this player is value to us going forward? And that's how it works really. And some deals you get over the line, but it's great having Sean's experience with us at the football club, because he's good at knowing when to stick and when to twist, which is when to push a deal a little bit further, or when to say enough is enough.
Wrexham have gone from a club in North Wales to a worldwide club that rivals lots of Premier League clubs in popularity. How have you found the very fast increase in worldwide popularity? And I guess it is something that you haven't experienced before as a manager.
No, I mean the only kind of the experience of the documentary and having a lot of American tourists coming over and coming to Wrexham, that's been great to talk to them. I went on holiday in Europe this year, into Greece, and there was a lot of American tourists, and a lot of them came up and spoke to us about the club, and so that was didn't really expect that, but it was great, and the knowledge of the team, I was astounded by really that they'd been watching all the games and following everything, every step along the way.
The fans at the race course have created an amazing atmosphere. What is it like to have these fans behind you, and what do you think it will be like when the new stand is finished?
Yeah. No, that's been really important to get the stadium complete. Playing at the stadium, managing the stadium, I think it's quite a unique atmosphere. It's there is a real intensity, and we always try and use the passion of the crowd to impact on our performance. And my motto to the lads and the staff when we approach games, that we want to make it difficult for the opposition to come here and play, and with the kind of drive and determination of the team, in the main we've done that.
Last season will probably go down as the best season ever in the National League. You and Notts County battled it all season. Heading into the season, were you confident you could achieve promotion because getting out of that league is so difficult?
Yeah, I mean, pre-season it took us a while to bed in the new players we had, but I felt we'd made significant improvements in the transfer market, and I was very pleased with the players we recruited, and there's so much work goes into getting those players in, the process which I spoke about, but for every player you sign, you've looked at another 7 or 8 in a detailed way in that position, and it's building up a kind of list of, right, that's the number one we want. If we don't get him, we'll go to that one. And yeah, the players have got to fit your style of play, but the players' personalities have also got to fit into the existing group you've got as well. Creating a culture within a football club is so important, and we as a staff and everybody connected with the club has worked hard to bring in the right people into this football club.
You saw a red card last season and have a very enthusiastic vocabulary. I'd rather not know what kind of enthusiastic, but how would you describe yourself as a manager, and what sort of manager are you?
Yeah, I think the kind of sometimes the passion of the game, gets the better of everybody, and that's only natural. I want to win. I've got a fierce passion to win, and that's every game. As a manager, I'd like to think that I'm good at working with the staff and listening to everyone's opinion, and because I think that's really important that. That people like Steve, who works as an assistant manager, Dave Jones, Aidan Davison, and have all got a strong opinion, and that's what I like. I think that's healthy, that when you sat around a table like this, having a staff meeting, everybody should feel absolutely free to well, I disagree, I'll do this, and I love that. I think that's really healthy, and I've tried to create that, and I think in any management position, you don't want people, yes men, who are going to agree with you all the time. You need people who are going to challenge you and come up with other ideas, and ultimately as a manager you've got to kind of absorb all that and then go away and make your decision based on what your thoughts are, and factor in everybody else's as well.
If we asked that to the players, what would they say? I couldn't resist them, sorry.
I'd like to think they'd say unfair. It's a tough job being a manager because you can only pick 11 players, you've got to leave players out of the team, and sometimes you have to have tough conversations, and I had countless of those last year, and like I said, all the lads are good people, but sometimes, especially when it came to the real cut and thrust and everybody wants to be involved in those games, there's some tough conversations with players, not just left out of the team but off the bench, but I always find it's best to front those conversations up.
You brought in Ben Foster last season. How did that move happen, and what was it like to have Ben in the team?
Yeah, well, Rob Layton got injured on the Saturday against Bromley, and Rob and Ryan instantly messaged me on the Sunday and said, "What's your thoughts?" And I said, "Well, Mark Howard's out the team alone, but he's done well for us. Unless a significant improvement in terms of goalkeeper becomes available, Mark's more than good enough to get us over the line." But then during the day, we spoke to Ben Foster's agent, and he kind of fancied the challenge because he's got a great history with the club. And by Monday I had a Zoom chat with him, and by Wednesday he was signed. And listen, it was tough on Mark, he did well, but we couldn't turn down the opportunity to bring in a goalkeeper of that quality, and Ben was just great for us. He just made some important saves, gave us a real presence in goal, and trained really well, and his professionalism is what you'd expect from a top Premiership goalkeeper.
Do difficult situations bring the best or worst out of you, and can you recall a time where you have been in a difficult situation?
Yeah, I mean, lots of times, like I said earlier, that sometimes as a manager you have kind of sleepless nights because you know situations need resolving. And like I said, my experience of those is you can't let them fester in your mind. You've got to deal with those situations, and you're always best being open and honest with people as much as you possibly can. Can I remember a particular one which highlights that at this moment? Probably not. But I think in management and in football, there's a lot of tight decisions have to be made. And that's transfer, team selection, substitutions, and you need good people who are around you to discuss those decisions, but it's getting the big calls right which ultimately determines the success of a football club.
I want to take you to the 10th of April 2023. Wrexham played Notts County at the racecourse.
Yeah.
That is probably the biggest non-league game ever. Can you take us to before the game? How were you feeling and what were the players like?
Yeah, well, we'd got beat to Halifax on the Friday. It was our first defeat for a very, very long time, and we came in, trained on the Sunday, picked the team, happy with the team, very pleased with the training session. Then Jordan Tunnicliffe, unfortunately, his back went into spasm, so we had to change the team round on the morning of the game. Yeah, I think I was pleased with the preparation. We'd done a lot of homework on Notts County and what we feel we had to do to win the game, both defensively and offensively. And on the day, I thought we implemented it really well.
That game was the best game I saw all season, better than any Premier League game or Champions League game. Take us to the 96th minute and Ben Foster's penalty save. What was that like for you, and what was it like after the match?
Yeah, I think if you remember, the ref kind of turned away and he wasn't going to give the penalty. I think the linesman, from his difficult angle, influenced his decision. And so it was a bit of a stunned silence in the ground when he gave the penalty. And then just a moment of pure drama when Ben saved the penalty. And after the game, you couldn't help having a euphoric feeling, but we had to quickly get the lads' feet back on the ground because we hadn't achieved anything at that point. And but it was quite difficult to put a lid on it because there was just a buzz about the ground. It was just an amazing feeling in the dressing room. Honestly, it was just everyone was on such a high. And but I've been in those situations before, and it's kind of okay, enjoy it, but we've got some work to do yet.
With the organisation of the players, would you say you get any nickname from them?
Oh, I don't know about that. You'd have to ask the players.
You have some big names in this team, and sadly, not all of them can play. How do you, as a manager, keep everyone in the team happy?
Yeah, well, that's the most important players in the squad are sometimes the ones out of the team, because if they're sulking or they're disaffecting the group, it can obviously have a negative effect, and that's why character is so important. So communication with those players and make sure that the standards remain high, because when you're out the team, I don't mind. I will speak to anybody at any length of time about why they're out the team, as long as they train properly. Do your work on the pitch, then I'm more than open to speak to people, because if you don't train properly, when your opportunity comes next, you're not prepared for it, and you've got to make sure that you're ready to take a chance.
Elsa?
Right, sorry. It happens sometimes. I zone out. It happens occasionally. You won promotion after beating
Bournemouth.
You were 1-0 down after 40 seconds in this match. You didn't make it. You don't make it easy, do you? What are your memories of that game and after the game?
Yeah, obviously going a goal down, but there was an air of calmness about us because we knew the game plan we had to implement to create chances against Boreham Wood. We played against them before, and once again a stunned silence came over the racecourse ground after the goal. But the lads just quickly gathered the thoughts, and we remained. You've got to kind of don't let instances in game kind of influence the game plan, and it's important to reset quickly, and we did that. And I always felt we'd get goals against them. I know that is easy to say now after the event, but I felt if we played the way I knew we could, we'd have a great chance. And after the game was just the scenes were just incredible. The pitch invasion, the impromptu party after the game, and just everything about the night was incredibly special, and will live in the memory of everybody who was at the ground or in a pub somewhere in Wrexham watching it, or involved in the actual game themselves.
What was it like to have the bus parade through
Wrexham.
Wrexham?
Yeah, that was just, I don't think anyone could believe the turnout on the night. It was just thousands of people lining the streets. I think it was only scheduled to about 45 minutes, and it took us hours to get back to the racecourse, but I say that those are the days you dream of.
45 minutes to get back. Jesus. We really do got some big fans.
After the season had finished, the team went to Las Vegas. You didn't go with them, but can you tell us about that trip, or is it a case of what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas?
I love that joke.
Yeah,
Got drunk and did what?
Yeah, I think what was obviously when I said on the TV, I'm not on that Vegas trip, and loads of people say, "Oh, how come you didn't go to Vegas?" But that it was important for me that the staff went away, and all the staff, that the owners treated us to a trip to Portugal. And in a football club, that's really important because there's a lot of work goes behind the scenes from the staff throughout the season, and it was very important for myself and Steve Parkinson to spend time and show our appreciation to all those people who'd worked so hard through the season. And equally, as a manager, you want the players to let their hair down and just enjoy the time. They had a fantastic time. They really did. One great moment in the summer was when Rob McElhenney got a message from some of the security guys over with our players, and basically it said that of all the groups they'd looked after over the years, that our lads were the most respectful, and every doorman, every waitress, everyone who came across them was full of praise for their conduct. And that meant a lot to me when that came through, because when you play for a football club and you're representing a famous club like Wrexham, wherever you are, you are still wearing the shirt, even though you might be out and celebrating, or you might be on a night out, and it's important that your conduct reflects the club in the right way.
Last pre-season you played the likes of Nantwich Town and Nottingham Forest under-21s. This pre-season you are off to America to play against Chelsea and Man United. Do you have to pinch yourself at times to believe this is real, and how important is this pre-season?
Well, I mean, I think it's a different pre-season for us, because I've never been on a trip to America for 2 weeks in pre-season. I've tried to go to Europe or Ireland, close by, but commercially it's so important. It's a great opportunity for us to have those profile of games, so we've had to structure it slightly different. We've had to adapt our build-up in a few ways, but what an opportunity for a club at this level to go and play in the United States in those high-profile games, and we're really looking forward to it.
What areas of the squad are you still looking to improve ahead of the new season?
I don't think we need loads of players. We've already got players plus, but if we can bring 1 or 2 key players, then I'll be happy. If we didn't and we went with the same squad, equally I wouldn't be complaining.
Paul Mullen has had 2 amazing seasons at Wrexham. Lots of Welsh fans are asking for him to be called up into the Wales team. Do you think this is something that Paul would want, and do you think he deserves a chance?
I think the best indication of Paul as a player is how well he did against the Championship teams in the FA Cup this year. And I think, and I remember saying to him before, I think it was a commentary game, that they won't expect you to be as quick as you are or as good as you are there. Because quite often happens, obviously at a high level, they underestimate the players. And if you get a chance to look at those games, Paul gave some very good defenders really difficult afternoons. So, yeah, of course, he's got to be in the thinking of Rob Page, and I'm sure he will be close to that.
What are the expectations for Wrexham next season?
Yeah, I think the expectation is to be competitive again. I think the bookies have made us favourites. Is that justified as we stand at the moment? I'll probably say in a couple of weeks I'll tell you that clearer when hopefully we've added 1 or 2 more. If we don't, see how pre-season's gone and see how the players have kind of developed, because there's players in the squad I feel there's more development and growth in them. So yeah, expectation is to be right up there again.
Can I ask a question, Phil? Just coming to my mind. Salford are in League 2 and very similar in the way to Wrexham.
Yeah.
Big owners, very famous. Done a documentary, and they've gone through the leagues and have not struggled in League 2, but they haven't out of League 2 yet.
Yeah.
And I think got the playoffs this year. Do you think it's not going to be easy to get out of League 2? But looking at like Salford, is there going to be a big challenge, and what difficulties do you think they'll have this season that are different to the National League?
Well, obviously it's the better quality of teams. I think that the top teams in the National League will at least hold their own as they stand now in Division 2. But every game in Division 2 is going to be like a top end game in the National League. So it's going to be like a Chesterfield or a Notts County. So you just higher quality opposition each week. There's a lot of teams, Gillingham, Bradford, Mansfield for instance, who've not been spoken about so much in terms of have invested already. So yeah, no, it's going to be a huge challenge, but it's one in a few weeks' time I hope we're ready for.
Scouting players is a big thing. Are Wrexham looking to bring in quality League 1 and League 2 players, or are you looking to explore players from the USA given the increasingly popularity of Wrexham in the United States?
Yeah, we are looking abroad as well. I mean, there's been a new rule brought in recently about the rules to bring a couple of foreign players in have been relaxed, so we are looking at those markets as well. Obviously it's quite complex judging players in those levels. So my answer to that question is we're looking across the board really, and we're trying to get the best quality we can for our budget.
Wrexham do a lot for the community and really help people with a disability at the club. Also, Paul Mullen recently announced that his son is autistic. How important is it to make football accessible for everyone and give people like us who are autistic the opportunity to attend football games regularly? Yeah,
of course, it's so important, and Wrexham, the club is really at the heart of the community, and I think you guys have kind of gathered that in your homework on the club, and yeah, it's we want to make it available to everybody, and we have a great women's team. So much going on behind the scenes. When a football club progresses, then all areas of the club progress, and the community side of the club is improving to make sure that everybody has got that opportunity.
Every week on the podcast, we ask our guests to ask questions to each other. So we get a guest to ask a question, but they have no idea who the question is going to be for. This week's question questions come from our previous guest, who was a former Chelsea and Everton
Everton.
footballer, Pat
Never.
Nevin, and he asks, what is the one thing you're supposed to love but you don't? Example, a type of music or a person or a food that everyone seems to love but you really don't.
Ooh, that's blimey. How long have I got to think about the answer to that one? Soap operas on the TV? Is that a good answer? There's so many people love watching them and I've got no interest in them at all.
Hey, if it's something most people like and you don't,
Yeah.
I say it
That's
counts.
about the best answer I could give you off the top of my head.
Could you do the same, please? Can you think of a question for our next guest? But we aren't going to tell you who the guest is. The question can be anything you want.
Yeah, this time next year, what's one achievement do you want to be remembered for?
I would just like to say a big thank you again to everyone who listens to our podcast. We really appreciate it. Please continue to leave reviews and pass our podcast on to your friends and family. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today, Phil. Thank you so much for taking the time. Do we actually include that part, Adam?
No, go on, next one.
Oh, sorry, that's optional, sorry. We really enjoyed speaking with you, and it means so much to us as a school to be able to have the opportunity to speak with you. Thank you.
That's a pleasure. I've really enjoyed it, and I have to say, some very, very well thought out questions. You've done your homework a lot, which is great from my point of view.
Oh, believe us.
And yeah, but I can.
We wonder how we find all this info, whether or not we should have been looking at it.
I can tell that you've done a lot of research and a lot of thought has gone into making this podcast as interesting as possible. So well done for that.
Thanks again.